And we just lost my guest for a second, but he's back now. As I was saying, this is episode 14 of The Boiling Point. Doesn't really have a title. It's entitled, we are going to be talking about the election and the results of the election and what's happening. And welcome back to the show. It's good to have you again, remotely this time.
Yep. Results, I would say it's more like lack of results.
Yes, certainly that is the case in a lot of places. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Virginia are very much all have things that need to be looked into.
Yeah. The media doesn't decide who won the election. The counts do.
Yeah. And the votes that are cast before election day or on election day, not days after.
Right. So everybody's celebrating either way needs to just chill out.
Yeah. We are far from over.
And I think it's hilarious that people are mocking us for saying that there's voter fraud.
Yeah.
When the 4 years has been about, delegitimizing his Donald Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
Not only Donald performed really well with minorities, African Americans, and Hispanics more than any Republican has in over, I think, 60 years. Joe Biden underperformed in every major city except for Milwaukee, Detroit,
Philadelphia.
I mean, that everywhere where there's an issue is where he performed wonderfully, but all over the United States, he underperformed Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. So, I mean, how do you underperform Hillary Clinton all over the United States in every major city except, Detroit, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, all of the contested states?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but when you stop the vote, you stop counting the votes, and all of a sudden between 3 and 4:30 in the morning, you get a vote bomb, and it's all 100% for Biden. That's a statistical impossibility.
Yeah.
So he won. I mean, we'll have to see. That's my own personal thought. I think that there is voter fraud. There's voter fraud in every election, and
at least to some
degree. I'm
against
fraud. Yeah, sometimes it's voter fraud that doesn't even matter. It didn't really affect the outcome. But we know it happens, and I'm opposed to it on either side. I want a fair election. That's the democracy part of our republic that we hold true to. So, I believe this entire thing is to further the color revolution that we were discussing in the last podcast. To call into question the legitimacy of the leader of a country. That's what we do to other ones. There's election, and something is right, and then it causes more uprisings and things of that nature, and it's following right into the plan. And it's they war gained for this in the Transition Integrity Project, which is very difficult to find that document right now that I sent you. I should have sent it in PDF form and printed it. But
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of fish.
So we have the hard
yeah, there's a lot. Right, there's a lot of fishy things going on that need to be investigated, and and it's not uncommon to ask for recounts. Al Gore, when he was up against George Bush, want to recounts what a 37 days.
Yeah, what is it in Wisconsin or Michigan? It's within the
Atlanta,
the count between them, the count between them I can't remember if it was in Michigan or Wisconsin, but one of those states, the count between them triggered an automatic recount, because if it's within so many votes, then it's automatically triggered a recount.
Yeah, and I think Georgia is the same. I think they have the same election laws. I'm not entirely sure. This has been a very chaotic week.
It certainly has been.
And that's the whole point. That's the whole idea that we were talking about in the last episode, and create election chaos. So that nobody knows what to do, what's really going on,
and the mainstream media certainly. Yeah, the mainstream media is certainly contributing to that. They're already calling Joe Biden President-Elect, even though the results haven't even been official or anything like that. There's recounts going on. There's lawsuits. There's a lot going on that I don't think anybody should be calling Biden President-Elect. Oh, we lost video with Gavin. Are you still there?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right, welcome back. Yeah, as I was saying, there's just too much going on yet to decide that that either one has won, not just Biden, but to assume that Trump has won. There's just too much going on right now. You can't say that anyone has won at this point.
Correct. It's literally too close to call, and we knew this was going to be a close call. Fraud or no fraud, it was going to be a difficult, race for him. But as we know, the cities tend to sway things, and usually Democrat-run cities, there's always some kind of fishy business going on.
Yeah.
There's too many accounts of suspicious and fraudulent activities to not investigate it. But yeah, it's too soon for any. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm praying that if there is anything wrong, that it would be exposed once and for all, proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that this is election interference, real election interference. And I hope they follow the money. They'll find that it's not just Democrats; it's the people fueling it, the globalists. We know that there's a foundation called Media Matters that pumps tons of money into the media, and we all know who runs Media Matters and the Tides Foundation. And like I said, I don't want to get you censored, so I'm not going to say the Dark Emperor's name, but we all know who he is.
At least not until we grow a little more and we have, we can fight something when we're shut down without cause and stuff,
Yeah, maybe someday when we have not a half Asian lawyer named Bill Richmond, but
when we have our own version of that.
Yeah, it's our own version. So, I would just encourage everybody to stay cool, stay calm. And anybody on the left that is watching this and can appreciate free thought and other people's opinions, now's not a really good time to gloat.
Yeah, I know it's not reason. It's not a reason to be gloating. Like you didn't, especially the only person who could be gloating right now is Joe Biden and anybody who helped get him elected, if he in fact is elected. Because they did something. The rest of you got everybody else who's bragging or whatever, you voted. Congratulations. Like I voted too. Like you didn't do anything. Your vote helped get him to the White House, but you didn't do anything other than vote. So if there's people out there who are showboating and bragging, then they shouldn't be, because they didn't do anything. And this is not what the country needs right now. I guarantee you, even when all the votes are counted, it turns out that Trump did get reelected. Trump supporters, maybe a little bit just because of the whole Biden situation and the way people are acting. But I think for the most part, most Trump supporters are not going to be like, see, look, this, we were right, and you were wrong. Like, that's not what we're going to be about. If it turns out that way, we're just going to be about, all right, look, it's done. It's over with. President Trump is in. Now let's continue moving forward. That's what President Trump's whole presidency has been about.
I gotta say, I would like to see some indictments. I'm kind of wondering,
certainly,
like Durham's report was to be due in May. What's the holdup? I mean, the Hunter Biden's laptop, it's enough to move on something.
Yeah, that's something.
What's the holdup? What are we waiting for? So is our government and our Justice Department that corrupt that you can commit treason and different crimes, run for president, win the presidency, and never get indicted?
Yeah.
Is it that corrupt? I certainly pray it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that, William Barr is the man to stand in the gap. He might not be. He's been certainly behaving as though he's going to, take care of business. But
yeah,
where's the action? I did just read a report that he's authorized an investigation into these allegations of election fraud. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing might end up going to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about the Supreme Court and if it goes to the Supreme Court, because Trump has selected 3 Supreme Court justices during his first term, and a lot of people, what I've been seeing on the news and stuff, is that people want Amy Coney Barrett to recuse herself from the election results, and to me that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because once you're on the Supreme Court, it's not like you have to recuse yourself. You would only have to recuse yourself if the case involved you personally or some kind of personal conflict. The president electing you or selecting you or nominating you to the Supreme Court is not a conflict of interest that I see.
Well, they want her to recuse herself, not because she's naturally conservative, but because she's an originalist. She'll actually follow the law as it is written.
Yeah.
So even if Trump the campaign comes with a preposterous idea with no evidence or anything to back it up, she's not going to go with it. She's going to vote for the law, and that's why we wanted her.
Yes.
The Supreme Court position is not there for you to push your own personal agenda. It's there to interpret the law as it's written.
Yeah.
And people say, people who say that the Constitution isn't relevant today haven't read it, because it's more relevant today than it ever was. The only thing I think the founders never imagined was big tech companies becoming more dangerous than the actual government.
Yeah, I'm sure that that's definitely one thing that the founders definitely could not have predicted was what media would include. The word media at the time, the press and stuff, it was all newspapers. They didn't even have TVs back then when the Constitution was written. That's just something that, how could they have foreseen that? There's no way that they could have. But even though they couldn't have foreseen it, if you actually follow the law, and these places like Facebook and YouTube, now definitely going to be censored. If Facebook and YouTube actually were to stand by the law, then they have a choice. So that's what a lot of people don't understand. The problem with Facebook and YouTube is not, if they want to censor things, that's fine. They're allowed to, but then they're not a public forum. They are a privately owned company subject to different tax brackets and tax structures than a public forum space, like a newspaper.
Right.
So that's Go ahead.
Correct. And then they're open. That means that they're open to lawsuits for their content.
Yes, but if they stay a public forum,
which want to be, do they want to be liable for what they allow and be able to get sued for what they allow on their site, or do they want to be a public forum? You can't have both ways.
No, you cannot, and that's what people need to understand about it. If Facebook wants to censor things, fine, but then they're a privately owned company, not a public forum, not a public square. They don't get freedom. Right. They don't have, it's different. It is different as far as taxes and the law goes, being a privately owned company or being a public forum, because if you're a public forum, the way Facebook and YouTube are supposed to be, then the company, Facebook or YouTube, are not held liable for the content of their users that they put up. They are not liable. Only the person, the individual who posts the content is liable, not the company YouTube, not the company Facebook. But if they want to be able to censor people, then they're a private company, and that opens them up to lawsuits and litigation and many other things for possibly violating the Constitution.
Right.
And right now they're trying to have it both ways. They want to be a public square with all the tax benefits and everything that goes with it, but they want to be a privately owned company where they get to decide the content that is posted. And you can't have it both ways. And that's one of the problems with these companies right now, is that they want it both ways. They're trying to be both, and you just can't be both. There's a reason that they're separate entities.
Correct. Either they allow whatever, freedom of speech to be on there, or they lose their liability protection and their, special treatment. And I don't want them to lose their special treatment. I want them to just respect free speech.
Absolutely. That's what I would like too. I don't want them to be a private company and to open themselves up to litigation. I want them to stay a public square where the information is just free for anybody. I mean, this whole thing that these companies have to fact check everything that's put up is just ridiculous to me. Whatever happened to self-responsibility? And
the fact check is so, like I saw, one of Steven Crowder's posts, he just posted a picture of Epstein with a sticker on his chest that said, "I voted," and they fact checked that. Well, obviously he was joking. You know what I mean? Like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just an algorithm. No, it's actually not.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I don't understand when did the
to censor us?
Go ahead. You're gonna have to repeat that last part there. You broke up a little bit. Go ahead.
I was saying, they say it's just algorithms. Well, there's people that program out those algorithms, and they work around the clock to program to censor people like us. So it's got to stop. And I mean, we'll touch on more. We'll touch on more of this. We'll touch on more of this another time, but. Like with the machine learning that Google is doing with taking AI and allowing it to learn on its own, but then also injecting critical race theory into it. Basically creating a Marxist AI with no reins or controls to where it learns itself. It's like sound like a really good idea.
It's like people didn't watch Terminator.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Like, it's like,
oh, it's just that can't happen.
Why do you people keep making these movies into realities? 1980 was supposed to be a fiction, not real life. It's like Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park. They were too busy wondering, whether they could. They never stopped to.
They never
whether they should.
Yep.
Sorry, but God gave me a brain and the ability to think and a soul. I don't want to eventually be uploaded to some program.
Yeah, no, me
not. If I get left behind on that, then that's fine with me, because you and I as Christians, we both know what that will be.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think you or I will be here for that, hopefully. But I still fight for my children's future.
Yeah.
I care little about myself. It's all about their future and their grandchildren's future.
Yeah.
So, I won't shut up. I won't be silent. I don't need to be a jerk about it, but I'm not going to be soft about it either. What's right is right, wrong is wrong, and what's dangerous is in fact dangerous. And we need to look at history, and the fact that you and I are sitting here talking to each other about why communism is bad.
Yeah.
And we're the ones worried about getting censored.
Yeah.
For saying, shows that maybe it's bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe it's very good.
Yep.
That I have to watch what I say while I'm talking to you on a public forum that's supposed to be free to everyone, tells me that maybe this Marxist socialistic approach to life isn't that good. Maybe it's bad.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, why do I never dreamed that you and I would be sitting here
needing to try and explain to people why socialism and Marxism and communism is bad and why we don't want it in this country and why our free market republic is the way it goes. It's lasted for 200 years, more than 200 years now. I think the framers built something that has lasted this long. Look at back, not many other civilizations as a whole have lasted 200 years.
right.
A few of them, but not many of them. And then just as with us, you can tie the beginning of their fall and their continued fall to the distance that their civilization put between themselves and God.
Exactly. The more debaucherous their society became, their family units collapsed, then the entire society collapsed, and then the empire collapsed. That's how it goes. The more morally debaucherous their culture became, the more the family unit didn't matter anymore. And then once the family unit breaks down, then everything breaks down. And that's just a historical fact. It's a sociological fact.
Yeah, it really is.
Psychological,
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah, it really is. It is just a fact. You just can't argue with it because there's proof. You just have to look back into history, do some homework, as everybody should be doing. People, we don't need Facebook and YouTube fact checking us. If you want to know if something's true, go and look it up and do some research. Spend some time looking up something. That's what that's what people used to have to do. Say that again.
Buy a book.
Yeah,
buy a book.
Yeah. Buy a book. There's plenty of them online too. I mean, you don't have to just buy a hard book. You can buy them online as well. But just buy the right books. I mean, you can learn. You just have to go out and be willing to look up the information and take the time. And it does take time. And that's another problem with our society is everything is so fast now. Even you a little bit with your work schedule and juggling the work schedule and family life. It's becoming harder and harder in today's society.
Right.
And that has to do with many different things. I mean, economics are certainly one thing, and certainly the changing culture that's in our country right now, the way we seem to be shifting. But we can just hopefully pray and continue to vote and continue to keep doing the Boiling Point podcast here and keep speaking the truth out there to people who want to hear it.
Right. And the people who don't want to hear the facts, the reason they don't accept facts as truth is because they don't want to know. They'd rather remain ignorant. They're willingly ignorant. They don't want to retain God in their thoughts. They don't want to retain common sense in their thoughts. So, they're given over to reprobate mind, where they can't think straight. They can't even understand common sense, even if it's laid out right before them, right before their very eyes. They don't want to know, because then it ruins their false world dream of what reality is, even though it doesn't exist. And there's no peace in that. They have to accept, well, I'm wrong, and this other way might be right, or and I've looked at the left side. I've challenged myself and thought, well, what good things are about it? And I got to say, socialism, the concept in theory is wanting everybody to have equality and all that, these things,
Yes.
and I'm all for equality of opportunity, but you cannot guarantee equality of outcome.
Yes, yes, and also socialism and is it's great in theory. The problem is when you put it in practice. It's great if the rich would want to keep working and give more than half of their money away to everybody else. But unfortunately, we're human beings. We're flawed. We have sin. It's just the way it is, and someone is not going to work just to support someone else who doesn't want to work. Not necessarily who can't, but who doesn't want to. That's where socialism is really bad, is that you're going to get people who don't want to do anything, who are getting this free money and just want to live with the minimal means possible, which they can do with this money that they get. But the only reason that money is going to keep going is if the people who are working continue to work for and be willing to give all their money away, and people just aren't willing to do that. People are not willing to do that. Yes, it would be great. It would be great if go ahead.
That they shouldn't be willing to do that. That's slavery.
You're absolutely right.
Working hard so that someone else can take your money and just sit on their butt. That's called slavery.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
We're against slavery.
Yes, we are against slavery. Absolutely. I am definitely against slavery. It is a dark period in our history, but it's also something that we can't ignore either. It did happen.
We have more slaves now than we did, the height of the Civil War. No one wants to,
Yeah.
Now our society has become so sexually depraved that the world gets their child pornography from us instead of the other way around. The world comes to us for sex slaves instead of the other way around. That's a problem. That's a serious problem that nobody seems to care about.
I saw in the last 6 months or something, I've seen three or four ICE reports of finding hundreds of people that were part of human trafficking, like people that were not in, like, they also did arrest people involved in it, but I'm talking about like hundreds of people who were being trafficked is what I'm talking about, that they rescued.
Yeah, joint efforts between different private organizations and U.S. Marshals, ICE, all working together to stop this. It looks like evil's triumphing, but there is good. There's a lot of good going on. This terrible president of ours, instituted the first ever, human trafficking division of the federal government. That's all they do is look for human trafficking to stop it.
And that's how we started. That's how we started getting all these things were being uncovered. That's how that's how they've rescued all these hundreds of people and put dozens and dozens in jail because of this thing that President Trump created. President Trump, being the terrible president that he is doing a lot of things to help the American people and to protect the American people.
Right.
And that's what's so shocking to me, that people aren't even willing to, like, all right, President Trump, just like all of us, he's flawed. He's not the most perfect individual. You could argue that he's certainly not the most presidential president that we've had, but he's doing things and he's getting things done. And a lot of what he's doing is good. If you just get rid of your hate for a minute, your blind hatred, and actually look at what he's done, it's really all very good. None of it's really bad. And people just don't, they refuse. They just refuse.
they've chosen personality over policy.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't like his personality, so he's a bad president.
Right. And he says funny things. He says silly things sometimes. So what? Look at what he does. I would rather a guy say bombastic, ridiculous things from time to time and do some good things than a guy who's really elegant and meanwhile is, selling our secrets to China.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry, I'd rather have a true patriot who just, I don't care if he stood up at the microphone and just went blah blah blah, but did really good things and made our country safer and better.
Yeah, I mean, if you also look at the media that he faces, you got to think that
constant, non-stop attacks from day one, non-stop. But the good thing about it is it really did expose how biased our media is, how they're not journalists. They're them, they're uh, operatives for globalists. That's all they do. So they have no problem sharing their opinions, and they're supposed to be journalists and unbiased journalists. And it's weird, like
my problem with journalism is why can't reporters? I don't have a problem if they want to give me what your opinion is. I don't have a problem with that. You're reporting the news, it's fine. Give me your opinion, but why can't you give me the facts laid out unbiasedly, and then at the end say, well, this is what I think about it.
Right, but just like school teachers aren't supposed to give their political opinion, neither are journalists, really. Now, if you want to set up a show, where you share your opinion, you lay out some facts and share your opinion, go ahead and do that. Young Turks have one. That's what they do. Glenn Beck and the Blaze, the Blaze, that's what they. Rush Limbaugh's program, and I just mentioned left and right programs right there. That's what Bill Maher does. He's not a journalist.
Bill Maher is not a journalist. I actually used to watch Bill Maher. I watched him for many years actually, because even though he's very left wing and he very liberal on the scale, but he always even though, and he shared his opinion, but he held his own party accountable. He would complain about the Republicans and stuff like that, but when the Democrats would do bad things, he would do the same thing, hold them accountable the same way he did the Republicans. And then all of a sudden he stopped doing that. Exactly. Yeah, he just stopped. The Democrats weren't doing anything bad, and only the Republicans were. And as soon as I saw that bias had made its way to that show, I had to stop watching. I'm like, you're not giving us a unbiased picture to look at with your opinions, because he always gave his opinions. He was always against the Republicans, but even when the Democrats would screw up, he would say so. He'd be like, listen, you're screwing up, stop it. But he doesn't do that now. Now it's the Democrats are all holy and the Republicans are just evil and dirty.
Right. And I criticize the Republican Party all the time, but mainly when they fail to be true Republicans or true conservatives. But I don't just like them because they're Republicans. They've let me down more time. Like, I know what the Democrats stand for. I know what they're going to do. It's the Republicans I'm always like worrying about, like, I'm very suspicious of, like, so no problem criticizing my own party that I'm a part of. So, but you don't see that. That's one thing that the left has. They're completely united all the time.
Yeah.
They're more organized than we are, because they don't have anything better to do, I guess, than destroy the world. So,
that's kind of happened it's kind of happened in the last 8 years or so. The Democratic Party has become more organized in a much more efficient fashion than they were prior to that. Because prior to that, it seemed like Republicans were more organized. They were all saying the same lines. They were united, behind the things as a party. And the Democrats weren't doing that as much.
One thing we need to remember, there are a lot of Republicans, like the Paul Ryans of the world, who, are on board with this globalist Marxist agenda. They're just more about implementing it slower and more progressively. They're more progressives than radical left, but the progressives, are communists with patience, and they've run out of patience. So, I don't trust Republicans just because they have an R. I trust what they say, say and do. You know what I mean? So I would encourage people on the left, your classic liberal Democrats, not your Marxist Democrats, your classic liberal Democrats. Like, is this really what I want? Like, do I really want like people being, put before a truth and reconciliation board, because they voted Trump? Like, does that seem familiar? Like something, wrong, something morally wrong, like not good. Like maybe just question yourself. Think to yourself, do I really want my friends that think differently than me to just be quiet and in fear all the time to express themselves?
Yep.
Is that really what you want? I don't think it really is. And they need to come to terms with that and then deal with it accordingly.
Yeah.
Whatever that may mean. They need to deal with it. Think about it. And then, consider maybe changing their own party and taking it back from the radical Marxists. If they want to have it, they just feel better having a D next to their registration. Maybe they should take it back from the C's, the communists.
Yeah.
So, but I don't see that happening. Unless there's a great revival in America, I don't see that happening, and that's what I pray for.
Yeah, that's what I pray for also, I was hoping that it was going to be with the election, but I don't know. Guess that was just naive of me to think that we were going to get a winner clean cut one way or the other, on election night.
Nah.
Of course it wasn't going to be like that at all. Of course it was going to take weeks and weeks of, lawsuits, counts and recounts and everything, because, that's where we're at right now. I don't know that we get another election that doesn't involve lawyers and recounts and the Supreme Court starting to make some of these decisions. And that's also dangerous too. I mean, even though we have a good Supreme Court right now, you don't want to just, we don't want every election to end up going to the Supreme Court.
No, it shouldn't have to. That's the ridiculous part of it. It's silly. It shouldn't have to, but it's a sad thing that it might, so. But
at least for this one, that's where it's going.
Right. So I just encourage everyone to pray and pray that, not that our will be done, that God's will be done.
Yes.
That's the most important part of our prayer, because He knows what He's doing. Even when it looks really bad, doesn't matter. He's got it under control. And if we hide underneath His wings, it doesn't matter what happens to us. He has a plan for each one of our lives. So with that, I'm going to sign off.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Gavin. This was episode 14 of The Boiling Point with special guest Gavin Whitcomb Jr. We're going to have him on again real soon. Make sure you share it out. I'm not going to go through all the websites and all the links and stuff. They're going to be in the description and on Facebook, so check them out. Buy some things and make sure you share. That's what you can do. Buy a mug, a coffee mug. Gavin Jr. just bought a coffee mug. He'll hopefully have it in a couple of days or week or two here, and then he can bring it on the air and show everybody what it looks like in person. So make sure you check all the links, buy some things if you like the show, and also just share, comment, that's how more people are going to see it. We need to have more people like us out there speaking the truth, and we need people that want to hear it. So share it out there for your friends. Don't be afraid.
Yep. All right.
Thank you, Gavin. And until next time, we are signing off. And
have a good one, John.